today I'm going to be talking about my project on the digital divide. And so this is an inequality that has arisen with the COVID-19 crisis, and access to information has become a privilege, and the right to internet is linked to the right to education and information, which inflames the disparities that already exist in today's society. And so affordability, access to computers, and training on how to use the internet are all issues facing low income and people of color throughout the country. And so the definition for the digital divide is the economic, educational, and social inequalities between those who have computer access and those who do not. And so the digital divide creates two different populations of people, as social class and education have a huge impact on how we experience digital technologies. On one hand, we have a digital native, who is someone who grew up in a digital landscape, and then we have a digital immigrant, which is someone who didn't grow up in a digital landscape and learns how to work a computer and understand the internet at a later point in their lives. And another definition that's important for my project is spatial inequality. It's a concept that we're all used to now with the modules from class, but the definition is the unequal distribution of resources and services across different areas or locations like healthcare or welfare. And the digital divide is an example of spatial equality, since there is an unequal distribution of technology, resources, and hotspots across different areas or locations. And this is attributed to multiple factors, such as the lack of infrastructure in terms of access to internet, absence of computers in school, and the lack of digital literacy amongst both teachers and students. So again, a digital native and a digital immigrant working together to kind of conquer the lack of infrastructure together. And so the Federal Communications Commissions, or the FCC, estimates that more than 21 million people in the U.S. don't have a broadband connection. More than a quarter of these people live in rural areas of the country where broadband isn't available because building networks in rural America is expensive, or broadband providers won't offer service if they can't get enough customers. It's estimated that 2 million children across the country fall into what's called the homework gap. And the homework gap is children who currently do not have access to internet or any mobile data to access homework and other educational resources online. So another inequality that's being faced is the degree of being able to move to online learning at a moment's notice, and is totally dependent on the wealth of the district. And so now there is a disparity in trying to bring up all schools to the same level of technology access and availability as all of the schools in the area. And this becomes difficult when families have been confined to their homes due to the lockdown, and the only mobile or computer is likely to be used by the parents working from home. And therefore, parents can't afford to purchase a new computer, causing children to miss out on online math and reading programs usually completed at school. And an example of this is a woman from the Washington Post. Wiggins has kids in her apartment complex who play outside, obviously with no computers or internet, and she wants the children to complete their assignments, but she doesn't want to allow them into her apartment, potentially exposing her family. So each day she has at least 2 children in the building sit in the hallway with her to use her computer and Wi-Fi to complete their schoolwork. Another example of this is a mother who called days after schools closed and asked to borrow $200 from an institution that houses women in need, as her children had used her cell phone to do their remote learning and had unknowingly blow through her limited data plan. And these 2 examples are just a small portion of the disparities currently happening across America right now. And therefore, there are risks for students with special education needs, including those with individualized instruction plans that may not be suited for distance learning. And all of these issues have have to now be tackled in addition to addressing food insecurity, housing security, and healthcare access. And in addition to all of that, we do have teachers who consider themselves proficient in using software applications and integrating computers into instruction. But we also have teachers who don't know how to transition onto online, and we also have teachers who were never taught how to transition to an online classroom. And as a solution, we have to believe in access for every child and then allocate the resources to support it. And the current situation is a call to action for us to um, to shrink the digital divide for our children who are currently learning on an online classroom, and that includes students with disabilities, children in rural areas, children in urban districts, and on Native American reservations who may not have consistent access to strong internet connections. And the FCC, as earlier mentioned, started the Keep Americans Connected pledge to encourage broadband and wireless providers to open up access to all COVID-19 crisis and keep customers on despite economic hardships. More than 700 broadband providers have signed on, including giants such as AT&T, Comcast, Charter, Cox, and Verizon.